I know. I was doing things to my hair. And I think it's very shiny and thick and blonde now. What do you think? Super shiny now. Yes, super shiny. I have to have shiny hair. I know, right? I said, what, 1:30, and I said, okay, 1:45. And now I'm like, what time is it? It's just everywhere. But I have my goldfish. I have a package. A bonnet's going out. And I just got more bonnets in stock. And I'm just running around like crazy because tomorrow. I sounded like Joanne Worley just then. That was amazing. Do you remember Joanne Worley on Laugh-In? I actually know her. She's very sweet. I met her as a child and at several very expressive events. Lovely woman. But I sounded like Joanne Worley. Tomorrow is Thursday, and I will be over there in that part of the living room doing my little show, my little skit, my show. Look at that. Just so shiny, blonde, but not too light because it gets a little brassy. I want to get brassy. I think it's good. Pink. New pink. Look at this. This is new. How pink is this bonnet? This is new. So we say, oh, you look good in every color known to man. Thank you. Yeah. I try. I like colors. What is it, that whole thing they would do about whether you were a winter or a spring or a fall or, yeah, it looks good. Where like if you're a spring, it was more pastels and whatnot. I'm a winter, whatever that test is. Somebody said, oh yes, you're a winter, which means I can wear bold, solid colors. I can wear black and white and jewel tones, green and red, and woo, which usually deathly pale blondes cannot do. But I am a winter. What the heck? Today, good heavens, is National Pralines Day. Those are so sweet, pralines. And National Parchment Day. So is that like parchment, like ancient parchment paper? Or is that like parchment, like the baking stuff? Did you put on the baking sheets, parchment? I don't know. But parchment. It's very handy, parchment. Well, here we go. The Madcap just now, like I said, things have been getting weird. It's so strange. Because like the Ingalls have money. They're not poor. They're not rich. They mentioned like, oh, we don't have as much money as so. But they're like, yeah, here's a dime. You can totally go to the party. And here's 25 cents. You can go order novelty cards. Oh, let's send Mary a bunch of expensive stuff. Let's get Mary like 5, 6 outfits, 2 for every season. That never happened. Remember in the show, they had 2 dresses. They had 2 dresses. And now it's like, oh yes, and lace at the jabot. And do it. Had a polonaise. I don't even know half this stuff they're talking about is. They're in petticoats and they're talking about hoop skirts and bustles. And they're like really decked out. They all have nice clothes. Remember they would get Pa, they'd like, well, we made him a shirt, well, you know, we just made him a little thing out of cardboard. Now it's like, we bought Pa a silk tie. And where is he wearing a silk tie? Remember, on the show he didn't even wear a shirt. And now they're buying him silk ties. So the lot of the Ingalls has significantly improved. And they're living in town, because for winter. So they're town folk. They are city folk. They are not town party, country party. They are town party. Their town party. And Nellie, the return of Nellie in here, is not really Nellie. It's not a Nellie Owens. Nellie Owens left one. It's like Stella Gilbert. It's probably because they mention a boy named Gilbert. It's like, it's Stella Gilbert. And so I guess the later one is Genevieve Master. I don't know. But yeah, so it's another. But she lives in the country. She's in the country and she doesn't have any money. And it's so great. Oh, there's Savannah. Twice Upon a Song. Check this thing out. Savannah's doing Twice Upon a Song. Because you know I did the Living on a Prairie thing. Like amazing. Well, now there's this thing called Twice Upon a Song. As a movie. It's going to be a movie. She did one. This is the sequel. And I saw her first movie and I was amazed. I was like, girl had a budget of like 50 cents. And she made a movie. And it's like good. So she's like, yeah, I'm making another. I'm going to get the hiccups. So excited. I'm making another one. And there's kind of this awful woman in it. Did someone say awful woman? So, I'm just saying. So yeah, she's got a whole thing. It's a whole like Kickstarter thing, and you should check it out. You should go check it out. You should go see what Savannah's talking about there. It's very good. Now, in the meantime, We must continue to read. They've been having parties. So Laura got so freaking bored that Paul went across the street and talked to the townsfolk, and they started having parties, which was great. But you see, it's the 1800s, and people did weird things at parties in the 1800s. So it's going to be history lesson. We're going to get history lesson today. So, pull up your pants. Here we go. The Madcap days. It's Madcap. I thought that was like the 20s. They're being Madcap early. After the party, Laura hardly cared about studying. She hasn't cared about studying in weeks, actually. I think her grades are going to fall. The party had made such a jolly friendliness among the big girls and boys that they now at recess and noon, on stormy days, they gathered around the stove, talking and joking. They're not like hiding from Nellie and playing ball. They're like hanging out. The pleasant days between snowstorms were even livelier. Then they all played at snowballing each other outdoors. This was not ladylike, but it was such fun. They came in panting and laughing and stamping snow from their shoes and shaking it from coats and hoods in the entry, and they went to their seats warm and glowing and full of fresh air. Laura was having such a good time that she almost forgot about improving her opportunity in school. Right? All that stuff about I gotta become a teacher, she's like la 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 la. She stayed at the head of all her classes, but her grades were no longer 100. No, she was smart. Even when she was slacking, she was still like getting fairly good grades. She made mistakes in arithmetic, sometimes even in history. Can you imagine? Laura Ingalls Wilder making mistakes in history. Yeah, she's definitely goofing off. But see, that's the problem sometimes. And I remember this when I was a girl, and it happened to me, and it happened to a bunch of my friends. Sometimes, if you're kind of smart, and you're good at, like, moving things, sorry, I missed. If you're kind of smart and you're good at some subjects in school, like I was smart and I was very good in English. Math was brutal, but I did it. Sometimes if you're smart and you go, I totally aced that test and it wasn't that hard, and I didn't study as much for such and such, and I still got a B+. And your friends, unless they're studying 4 hours a night, can barely make a C, you kind of go, pfft. And especially when you're a teenager and don't know any better, you get slack and you say, oh, well, I've already got a 4.0 average. What? I'm going to take that down to a 3.9. Hoop-de-doo. I'm doing so well, and I didn't study last week and I still got a B. So how hard could it be? And then that's when the trouble begins. Because, of course, courses get harder as you get older and as you go throughout the year, and then they're going to have a final, and suddenly there you're going to be stuck. And that's why sometimes smart people wind up getting horrible grades. They get slack. They get overconfident. So you got to be careful. The kids who know they're not as good as some of the subjects will often study harder. But so, yeah, Laura's getting a little slack. She's like, well, I just went to a party. So she's making mistakes. Once her arithmetic grade went down to 93. Still, she thought she could make up lost time by studying hard next summer, though she knew by heart the true words. Lost between sunrise and sunset, 1 golden hour set with 60 diamond minutes. No reward is offered, for it is gone forever. Harsh. I mean, true. True. All we have is time. All we have is time. And we blow it all the time. We blow time and waste and go la 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 la, and really all we have is time. And yes, but it is golden. It's true. It's awful, but it's true. Okay, so her math grades went down to 93. Now, as we know, probably more than half the students would have killed for a 93, would study for 6 hours a night, cram, sweating, and still if I could only maybe get to 93. And oh yeah, right. Math got hard. Sarah talking about the whole thing with algebra. Algebra, don't even say algebra. Right, so they would kill for 93, and she's like, ugh, I went down to a 93. But she's a girl who can get 100 on a math test. She can get 100 on a math test. I don't know that I can get 100 on a math test, but she can get 100 on a math test. I definitely cannot get 100 in algebra. I did it, though. I did it. And I went back to school. I went back after high school and took an algebra class. There. Darn it. So I conquered algebra. Didn't like it, but I did it. There you go. Poor thing. The little boys brought their Christmas present sleds to school. Ooh, sometimes the big boys borrowed them. Now, did the big boys borrow them, or they just take them? Because that happens everywhere. And took the girls sled riding. The boys pulled the sleds, for there were no hills to slide down, and this winter no blizzards made big hard snowdrifts. Then Cap and Ben made a hand bobsled big enough for 4 girls to crowd into. The 4 boys pulled it. At recess, they raced at great speed far out on the prairie, road and back. At noon, they had time to go even farther. See, that was their great way to flirt with girls. I got a sled. So, yeah. At last, Nellie Oleson could not bear standing alone at the window and watching this. She had always disdained to play outdoors in the cold that might roughen her delicate complexion and chap her hands. Never chap my hands. But one day at noon, she declared she would go for a sled ride. The sled was not large enough for 5, but the boys would not agree to let any one of the other girls stay behind. It's like, no, Nellie, not getting on the sled, no. They coaxed all 5 girls onto the sled. Oh, we already know this is going to end badly. The girls' feet stuck out from the sides. Their skirts had to be gathered in till their woolen stockings showed above their high shoe tops. This is scandalous. They had 5 girls. They had to sit. They weren't riding English, with their knees bent. They had to sit straddling the slide. They couldn't put their feet up like this. They had to straddle. Unladylike, totally unladylike. And that meant their skirts had to be tucked up, which meant their legs were showing. It's 1800s. Shocking. Poor girls. Oh dear. And away they went out on that snowy road. They were windblown, disheveled, red-faced from cold and wind and laughter and excitement as the boys swung in a circle over the prairie and ran toward town, drawing the sled behind them. They whisked past the schoolhouse and Cap shouted, "Let's go up and down Main Street!" With laughter and shouts, the other boys agreed, running even faster. Nellie shrieked, "Stop this minute! Stop, I tell you!" See, the 1800s, they're very limited in how they could flirt with the girls. So they could get them on the sled, and the boys could show off how strong they were, pulling the sled, and then the girls could squeal and be unladylike and shriek and carry on in the snow, which they normally couldn't do. And then the girls, their cheeks would be all flushed for the snow and fresh air. And they'd be all, They say that for date night, taking your date to a horror movie is what to do on date night, because everyone gets all adrenaline, and when they're scared, they're like, "Oh no, and they start hugging the person next to them. So you want to take a girl to a horror movie. Yeah, that's why people do it. So this was the 1800s version. Get the girls all keyed up and fluffed. I know these things. So Nellie's screaming her head off. Ida called, "Oh, boys, you mustn't." But she could not stop laughing. Laura was laughing too, for they were such a funny sight. Heels kicking helplessly, skirts blowing, fascinators and mufflers and hair whipping in the wind. Their fascinators got caught in the wind. Nellie's screaming only added to the boys' merriment as they ran faster. Surely, Laura thought, they wouldn't go into Main Street. Surely they would turn back any minute. Girls, skirts hiked up. No, Arthur, no! Minnie was screaming, and Mary Powers begged, "Oh, don't. Oh, please don't." Laura saw the brown Morgan horses standing, blanketed at the hitching post. Almanzo Wilder, in a big fur coat, was untying them. He turned to see what caused the girls screaming, and at the same instant Laura knew that the boys meant to take them all past him, past all the eyes on Main Street. This was not funny at all. The other girls were making such a commotion that Laura had to speak low to be heard. "Cap," she said, "please make them stop. Mary doesn't want to go on Main Street." Cap began to turn at once. The other boys pulled against him, but Cap said, "Oh, come on," and swung the sled. They were on their way back to the schoolhouse, and the bell was ringing. At the schoolhouse door, they scrambled out of the sled good-naturedly, all but Nellie. Nellie was furious. "Oh, really? No kidding. Oh, Nellie was furious. Oh, there's a shock." Oh, she was mad. Okay, so Nellie is furious. You boys think you're smart, she raged. You ignorant Westerners. That's a good one. The boys looked at her, sober and silent. They could not say what they wanted to, because she was a girl. Then Cap glanced anxiously at Mary Power, and she smiled at him. Thank you, boys, for the ride, Laura said. Yes, thank you all. It was such fun, Ida chimed in. Thank you, Mary Power said, smiling at Cap, and his flashing smile lighted up his whole face. Oh, Mary Power and Cap like each other. Mary Power and Cap totally like each other. Yeah, sitting in Cap Garland and Mary Power sitting in a tree. I'm telling you, K-I-S-S-I-N-G. It's totally. Do you remember that? Did you do that when you were kids? I think that's like elementary school. K-I-S-S-I-N-G. Where's Captain? We'll go again at recess, he promised, as they all trooped into the schoolhouse. Nellie Oleson called them ignorant Westerners. I'm going to start saying, you ignorant Westerner. It is not a Brady Bunch tiki glass, but it is a tiki glass. It is a tiki cup. I got it from, Oriental Trading Company. They party wear. It's a catalog of party wear, Oriental Trading. Had any kind of balloons, backdrops, nonsense you would have for parties. And tikis. And tiki cups. You can get this. Lovely. Oh my. And I love how they were going to tell Nellie off, but she's a girl, so we can't, swear at her. Okay. In March, the snow... We're already into March? Good heavens. In March, the snow was melting and final examinations were near. Now, we haven't had Laura's birthday. She went to somebody else's birthday, but Laura's birthday's in February. Is it in February? I think it's in February. Party. Okay. In March, the snow was melting and final examinations were near. Still, Laura did not study as she should. Wow, she's pushing. If February you're not studying, you can slack off December, Christmas break, but boy, February. All the talk now was about the last literary of that winter. What it would be was a secret that everyone was trying to guess. Even Nellie's family was coming to it, and Nellie was going to wear a new dress. At home, instead of studying, Laura sponged and pressed her blue cashmere and freshened its lace frill. Yeah, so that's what they did with these big old dresses that they couldn't possibly be laundering all the time. They took a wet sponge, rubbed it down, got the spots out, pressed it, basically, brushed it, pressed it, steamed it, I suppose. They could hang it up over the bath, but they sort of freshened it up very much like costumes when you can't, get around to clean. That makes sense. So she freshened its lace frill. She so wanted a hat to wear instead of her hood that Ma bought for her half a yard of beautiful brown velvet. I know you'll take the very best care of the hat, Ma made excuse to herself, and it will be perfectly good to wear for some winters to come. Ma is spending like a sailor compared to the Ma in the other books who would not spare a penny. She's like, here, velvet, go make a hat. Sure, great. It's shocking, but she says, well, it'll last. It'll wear well. You'll wear it again. It's fine. That's like me when I go shopping. If I buy something really expensive, I'm like, oh, I'll wear it a bunch of times. No, it's great. No, I'll wear it a lot. It'll be fine. I was a good reason that I needed to go buy that. It's good. So on Saturdays, Mary Power and Laura made their hats. Mary's was of dark blue cloth, trimmed with a twist of black velvet and blue, all from her father's scrap bag. It's pretty darn good. Laura's was that lovely brown velvet, so soft to touch, and with a tawny golden sheen to its silkiness. She wore it for the first time to the literary. In the schoolhouse, no preparation was to be seen, except that the teacher's desk had been moved from the platform. People crowded there, 3 in a seat, and every inch of standing room was jammed. Even on the teacher's desk, boys stood tightly crowded. Mr. Bradley and Lawyer Barnes pressed back the mass of people to keep the center aisle clear. No one knew why, and no one knew what was happening, when a great shout went up for the people outside who were trying to get in. Big deal, right? Then, up the center aisle came marching 5. If you have a sip of water in your mouth, you might want to swallow that first. Oh, nobody's holding anything fragile in your hand. And this is where, unfortunately, you see, it's the 1870s. And slavery has only just ended. But people in, well, totally all white towns, like in South Dakota, are still not really comforted and connected to the concept of Black people as human beings. Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. Yes. So they thought this was cool in the 1870s. A great shout went up because down the center aisle came marching 5 black-faced men in raggedy-taggedy uniforms. White circles were around their eyes, and their mouths were wide and red. Up onto the platform they marched, then facing forward in a row, suddenly all advanced singing, "Oh, talk about your mulligan guards." And then there's a word that is a bad word. Because this happens in Prairie. It is a bad word. You don't call people this. I think my grandmother said it once. And that was my grandmother, who was born in, like, 1880. And even she was like, "Ooh, this is a bad word." And we don't call people that. But these can't be beat because it is a minstrel show. Now, for those of you who don't know about these things, because you're young and you're like, no, people didn't really do that. You've like seen movies about this. You've heard about this. But really and truly. So blackface was a thing. But the minstrel show, it's very specifically, was a thing. And it really got going in like the 1830s. Now, slavery was still in, but remember the fleet it got free in what, the 1860s. So it was when abolitionists and the talk of perhaps getting people out. You know, someone's saying here, oh, yes, Sarah, pretty much all the popular 19th century music was minstrel shows. People do not know how pervasive it was. Yes. So in the 1830s, when people were starting to talk about maybe freeing slaves, maybe treating them like, oh, human beings, but minstrel shows really kicked in. And then when the slaves got free, they became the most popular darn thing going. Here it is, and it increased. You think, well, they freed the slaves. People were being much more progressive and realizing that these African-American persons were in fact people and that heavens to Betsy and they were going to give them the vote. Nuh-uh. They dressed up as them. And it wasn't like they dressed up as Black people and then played characters that were nice. They dressed up as Black people and acted as stupid as possible. The basic thing to be, yes, these people, it is okay to treat them like that because they're dumb. They put it out there. The idea was to portray them as being not really quite like us, like people. Like, not quite human, that they were really dumb and they couldn't possibly take care of themselves or have any responsibility because they were these completely brainless creatures. And isn't that hilarious? Ugh. They did this. Now, it's weird. It was so pervasive that indeed, many, many popular songs, including songs that we sing today and go, la, 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 that's what? Because they, like, change the words and we don't even know. They launch the songs. Like, you might launch a song on YouTube. You might drop a single. People launch their songs by getting it into the latest minstrel show because they were so popular. In fact, as we go on, they'll talk about how, wow, these guys are almost as good as the minstrel shows from New York. Because they were professional. Wow, minstrel shows. Oh, yeah, Tim McCall just put up the whole Wikipedia. It's astounding, the things that went on. And here are these, what seem like very nice people, going, hey, we're going to go dress up and paint our faces black and act like idiots because it's funny. Horrifying. And this is a thing. And as you know, now blackface, huge in the 1800s, but this book came out in the 30s. Now, if someone today wrote about their dad or family dressing up in blackface, they would probably say, yes, it was really weird. You know, they thought this was cool. I don't know what they were thinking. Oh my God, it's so terrible and here insulting and here are these people doing it. But in the 1930s, so many people still thought it was okay that it's not even like, oh wow, isn't that weird? It's like, isn't that great? I read this and I'm goggle-eyed and slack-jawed at this, but indeed, and just when you think, well, okay, so we're better by now, people still pop up in this and still do this weird thing. And you go, okay, well, the 50s, but then we had the civil rights movement, and good heavens, and time has marched forward, so surely in the 21st century, yep, people still doing it. People still doing this, and it's like, did your mother not tell you? This is rude. It is rude. It is ill-mannered. At the very least. I mean, okay, not racist, but it's like, it's not polite. Why would you do such a thing? So there you are. Talk about your mulligan guards. Those can't be beat. Backward and forward they march. Back and forth, back and forth. Oh, talk about your mulligan guard. Those can't be beat. We march in time and cut a shine. Just watch those feet. The man in the middle was clog dancing. Back against the wall stood the 4 raggedy black-faced men. One played a Jew's harp, one played a mouth organ, one kept the time with rattling bones, and one man clapped with hands and feet. The cheering started. It couldn't be stopped. It was the best thing they ever saw. Feet could not be kept still. The whole crowd was carried away by the pounding music and the grinning, white-eyed faces and the wild dancing. Ew. There was no time to think. When the dancing stopped, the jokes began. The jokes, did these get interesting? The white circled eyes rolled, and the big red mouth blabbed questions and answers that were the funniest ever heard. Then there was music again and even wilder dancing. Yeah, I ain't holding up the book for this. There's an illustration. No. Like, there could be children watching. This would be traumatizing for people who don't know about these things. It's terrible. When the 5 suddenly raced down the aisle and were gone, everyone was weak from excitement and laughing. It did not seem possible that the whole evening had gone. The famous minstrel shows in New York, this is like the 1880s almost, the famous minstrel shows in New York surely could not be better than the minstrel show had been. Then a question ran through the whole jostling crowd. Who were they? They were their neighbors. They were their friends and neighbors doing this. In their ragtag clothing and with their blackened faces, it had been hard to know who they were. Laura was sure the clog dancer was Gerald Fuller, for she'd once seen him dance a jig on the sidewalk in front of his hardware store. Okay, there's a story. Why did he dance a jig in front of... I want to know about the time that Gerald Fuller went nuts and danced a jig in front of his hardware store. I need a chapter on that right now. What? And as she remembered the black hands that held the long, flat, white bones between their fingers and kept them rattling out the tunes, she would have been certain that was Pa, if the had whiskers. Pa couldn't cut off his whiskers, could he? She asked Ma. And in horror, Ma answered, "Mercy, no." Then she added, "I hope not." They're really upset that he might have shaved. They're not upset that he might have possibly dressed in blackface and done an actual minstrel show of the worst possible variety, but then he might have shaved. This is what you're upset about. Oi. But it came out in the 1930s. People were going, and yeah, probably they were happy that she only used that word to describe them and not other words that were like even worse. And probably because she didn't repeat the jokes, because the jokes would have been like, so yeah, you would have gone, if you had heard the jokes. They left that bit out. That was probably their merciful attempt. But it's really weird, because that's not that long ago. They thought this was like totally normal. And by the 30s they did. And they were still going way, way into the 20th century. They were like, la, 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 this is totally normal. Now, minstrel shows were so huge that sometimes, as time went on, black artists decided, I gotta get it. I got a song. I gotta perform. I sing. I can't get a gig. There were black artists who painted themselves up as white people in blackface. Yes, a racial version of Victor Victoria. There were black artists who painted themselves up to get into minstrel shows with white people in blackface in order basically to get a gig. They wanted the money. It's like, what? But that's how crazy it was. That is how crazy it was. And there wasn't anything where, like, it was nice, like, yes, we're doing this minstrel show because we love our black brothers and sisters and they're so cool. No, there wasn't a minstrel show that had, like, maybe that sentiment or anything. No, darn it. There wasn't, I mean, in the 70s, the 1970s, in the 20th century, we had a lot of the comedians like Richard Pryor, LaWanda Page, doing really racially charged humor. You say, oh, well, there might be sketches or movies where they did a blackface where they were talking about racism and showing this and having black people participate in the writing of that. No, this wasn't that. This was not even that. This was not that. This was white people going, look at the and dressing. Yeah. How? And no, I mean, if this happened on the show, if this totally happened on the show, oh no, Ma and Pa would have been like, you can't do it. Wisdom of Solomon, they'd have gone and gotten Todd Bridges and said, no, you can't do that. You can't, we have Todd Bridges here. Ma and Pa wouldn't have gone for that, but that was the 1970s we made the show. So here it is in the 1870s, and Pa apparently shaved. Did Pa shave? This is the mystery. I hope not. Pa must have been one of the, Carrie said, because he did not come with us. Yes, I know. He was practicing to be in the minstrel show, said Ma, walking faster. Well, but none of the, you-know-whats had whiskers, Ma, Carrie reminded her. My goodness, Ma said. Oh, my goodness. She had been so carried away, she had not thought of that. He couldn't have, she said, and she asked Laura, do you suppose he would? I don't know, Laura answered. She really thought that for such an evening, Pa would have sacrificed even his whiskers, but she did not know what he had done. They hurried home. Pa was not there. It seemed a much longer time than it was before he came in, cheerfully asking, well, how was the minstrel show? His long brown whiskers were as they'd always been. What did you do with your whiskers? Laura cried. Pa pretended to be surprised and puzzled, asking why. What's wrong with my whiskers? Charles, you'll be the death of me, Ma said, helplessly laughing. But looking closely, Laura saw the smallest white smudge in the laughing wrinkles at the corner of his eye, and found a very little black grease in his whiskers. I know, you blacked them and smoothed them down behind that high-collar coat, she accused him. And he could not deny it. He had been the who rattled the bones. Such an evening came once in a lifetime, I should hope. Ma said, and they sat up late talking about it. There would be no more literaries for that winter, for spring was coming soon. We'll move back to the claim as soon as school lets out, Pa said. How will all of you like that? I must be looking over my garden seas, Ma said thoughtfully. So they were really worried that he shaved his whiskers and really shocked about him greasing down his whiskers and sticking them in there. But, they didn't say, Pa, you like the Indians. You always tell Ma that she's wrong to pick on the Indians, but you just picked on all the black people. Why did you do that, Pa? Because it was the 1870s. It was the 1870s. That people had literally just finished, owning people. The heck, right? And so here they were finally making progress, but it's interesting, and this is the thing I've noticed. Whenever a group of people who've been treated very, very badly and have been oppressed, what have you, start to get somewhere, people get weird, like murder and lynching stuff went up after, slavery ended. So when things start to go good for people who were having a really horrible time, there will be pockets of people who will then get worse and get meaner to them. So, very difficult, very difficult, very difficult. So there you go. So yes, even the Ingalls participated in minstrel shows, which was just the most embarrassing thing ever happened in 1890. And was still happening in the 30s. Ew. So hopefully we know better now. Hopefully some of us have some sense that might possibly be rude or insulting to dress up like that and mock people, and that it's not nice, especially to mock people who've already been treated badly. Because clearly on our show, we had the episode Wisdom of Solomon, Neener, and we had the fighter, and we had Hester Sue at the blind school, harumph. So we tried, I think, hopefully maybe, to try to make up, but that little tiny bit for the thing, maybe. We got a long way to go. It's just, yeah. Hey, that human beings who are all, we all got 2 lungs and 2 kidneys and 1 heart and bloodstream and a brain and 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth. Eventually we will figure it out that we are more the same than we are different, and we will all get over ourselves and be nice to each other. And stop being weird and deciding that other people are less. Maybe, I'm hopeful. It could happen. But yeah, Pa was in the minstrel show. These things. So, it said, history lesson. If you read these books to your kids or they read them, break out the history book and go, here's what happened. And there you are. That's, what do you do? So she's all excited about her seeds. I'll be glad to go, Grace, and I'll pick violets again, said Carrie. Won't you be glad, Grace? But Grace was almost asleep on Ma's lap in the rocking chair. She only opened one eye and murmured, violets. It's because that was when Grace ran away and disappeared, and they thought she'd been killed, and luckily she was just in the violets. How about you, Laura? Pa asked. I've been thinking that by now you might want to stay in town. Dun, 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 dun. I might, Laura admitted. I do like living in town better than I ever thought I would. Remember, she was terrified to live in town? She was. But everyone will be moving out to hold down claims all summer, and we'll come back to town next winter, won't we? Yes, I really think we will, said Pa. We might as well, as long as I can't rent this building and it's safer for you girls going to school. Though, we might as well have stayed on the claim this winter. Well, that's the way it goes. Get all ready for a hard winter, and there's not so much as one blizzard. He said it so comically that they all burst out laughing at the joke on them. After that, there was moving to think about, and in the warming air scented with damp earth, Laura felt less than ever like studying. She knew she could pass the examinations, even if her grades were not as high as they should be. When her conscience pricked her, she thought rebelliously that she wouldn't see Ida and Mary Power and Minnie and the boys again all summer long. She promised herself that she would study really hard next summer. In the examination, she did not make one perfect grade. Her history grade was only 99. Oh, boo-hoo. I wish I got a 99 in history. 99. And in arithmetic, she only earned 92 plus. That was her record, and she could never change it now. Yeah, if you got 100 all the time, and you went down, Then suddenly, she knew that there must be no more self-indulgence. There were only 10 months left before she would be 16 years old. Summer was before her with blue skies and great blowing white clouds, the violets blooming in the buffalo wallow, and the wild roses spangling the prairie grasses. But she must stay in the house and study. She must. If she did not, perhaps next spring, she could not get, I'm getting the hiccups, I'm so excited, not get a teacher's certificate. And Mary might have to leave college. So yes, horrors, she realizes she needs to stop fooling around and going to racist minstrel shows and get back on the books and study. Yay. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Let's read a nice chapter. Look, there's a happy chapter where I think all's well that ends well. All's well that ends well. The slaves got freed and the Ingalls didn't kill anybody and yay. And then we made a TV show where we had lots and lots of African American actors and gave them lead parts. So, yay. There's a lovely chapter here called Unexpected in April, where presumably nobody dies, nobody starves to death, and nobody gets up in blackface. Woo! I gotta actually drink backwards out of the glass. I could totally see my tonsils. I was like, sorry about that. Unexpected in April. Everything was settled in the little house on the homestead. Outdoors, the snow was all gone. A green mist of new grass lay over the prairie, and plowed land spread back and sweet-smelling under the warm sun. For 2 hours that morning, Laura had studied. There you go. Now, as she cleared away the dinner dishes, she saw her slate and school books waiting, and she felt the soft breeze beguiling her to go walking with Carrie and Grace in the spring weather. She knew she had to study. I think I'll go to town this afternoon, said Pa, as he put on his hat. Is there anything you want me to get, Caroline? Suddenly, the breeze was icy cold, and Laura looked quickly from the window. She exclaimed, Pa, there's a blizzard cloud. Oh, why, it can't be. This late in April? Pa turned to see for himself. Uh-oh, there we go. Oh, dear. The sunlight went out. The sound of the wind changed as it rose. The storm struck the little house. A whirling whiteness pressed against the window, and the cold came in. On second thought, said Pa, I believe I'd rather stay home this afternoon. He drew a chair close to the stove and sat down. I'm glad all the stock is in the stable. I was going to get picket ropes in town, he added. Kitty, another cat, they didn't name her, she says Kitty. Kitty was frantic. This was the first blizzard she had known. She did not know what to make of it when all her fur stood up and crackled. Trying to soothe her, Grace discovered that a spark would snap from whenever she was touched. Nothing could be done about that, except not to touch her. Oh, Kitty has static electricity. Oh, no. Electrocute the cat. 3 days and nights the blizzard raged. Pa put the hens in the stable lest they freeze. It was so cold that the dismal days were spent close to the stove, and though the light was dim, Laura doggedly studied arithmetic. At least, she thought, I don't want to go walking. On the 3rd day, the blizzard left the prairie, covered with fine, hard snow. It was still frozen when Pa walked to town next day. He brought back news that 2 men had been lost in the blizzard. They had come from the east on the train in the warm spring morning. They had driven out to see friends on a claim south of town, and just before noon, they set out to walk to another claim 2 miles away. It was a lovely day. It was only 2 miles. After the blizzard, the whole neighborhood turned out to search for them, and they were found beside a haystack, frozen to death. Pa is always coming home and telling Laura this stuff and, like, scaring her out of her wits. Now, that's why Laura's, like, totally traumatized. It's like, blizzard, block them. Being from the east, they didn't know what to do, said Pa. If they had dug into the haystack and plugged the hole behind them with hay, they would have kept each other warm, and they might have lived through the blizzard. But whoever could have expected a blizzard so late, said Ma. Nobody knows what will happen, Pa said. Prepare for the worst, and then you've got some grounds to hope for the best. That's all you can do. I was just talking about this morning. I say I am a big mix of, like, massive optimism and terrible pessimism at the same time. It's very confusing. I am the master of hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Absolutely. Like on the news today, they were saying, the cases, the case numbers, hospitalizations, the COVID's been bad. They're just saying, the weather, it'll warm up. Yeah, tell that to people in Brazil. It's hot in Brazil. They're all sick. Numbers are going up, and they're like, we thought we were flattening the curve, No. So we're having a spike. It's still the first wave. It's not even the second wave. And I'm like, the number's not so good. So, again, I'm going to hope for the best and be cheerful and, like, make a go of it. And I'm going to continue trying to, like, do things. But I am prepared for the worst. I called a friend, said, you make a list. I might be stocking up at the store. Just saying, could be might have to go back in the house again. Woo! So, yeah. So, prepare for the worst. But hope for the best. Really, it's confusing, but you can do it at the same time. Pa Ingalls did it all the time. There you go. It's all you can do. Laura objected. You were all prepared for the worst last winter, Pa, and all that work was wasted. Well, there wasn't one blizzard till we were back here and not prepared for it. It does seem that these blizzards are bound to catch us coming or going, Pa almost agreed. I don't see how anybody can be prepared for anything, said Laura, when you expect something and then something else always happens. Laura, said Ma. Well, it does, Ma, Laura protested. No, Ma said. Even the weather has more sense in it than you seem to give it credit for. Blizzards come only in a blizzard country. You may be well prepared to teach school and still not be a school teacher, but if you're not prepared, it's certain that you won't be. Hello. That was so. Later, Laura remembered that Ma had once been a school teacher. That evening, when she put away her books to help Ma get supper, she asked, How many terms of school did you teach, Ma? 2, said Ma. It was not very many. I thought it was longer. Did you think it was longer? I thought Ma taught much longer. What happened then? Laura asked. I met your pa, Ma answered. Oh, Laura said. Hopefully she thought that she might meet somebody. Maybe, after all, she would not have to be a school teacher always. Oh, you mean like Almanzo? The horse is Almanzo. You've met him. You've already met him. And you're 15, which means you're going to get, like, married any minute. You're not going to teach that long. So there you are. But she's right. Laura's freaking out. I can't prepare for everything. I don't know. And it's true. You don't know. You can't prepare for everything. Or as my father used to say, you could be hit by a bus tomorrow. That's cheery, isn't it? But, you know, he meant anything could happen. Now my bangs are, like, too shiny. I put shiny stuff on them. Now they're, like, too lax. I have to fix them. But they're kind of like that. They're that's sort of Amish. Yeah, I like it. But you can't, yeah, it's true. You do have to prepare, and there you go. You say, well, we prepared for winter, and then, well, no, but now you've got stuff in, and you're prepared for next winter. You'll practice there. And to say, oh, it was wasted. Well, no. you didn't waste the coal or the wood, right? That it didn't go anywhere. And seriously, it's, what do you, if you hadn't, remember you almost froze to death and almost starved to death? I think I'd rather have an extra hod of coal just sitting there, really. So, yes, it is good to be prepared. You might not need both giant 24 packs of toilet paper. You probably do not need 48 rolls of toilet paper in your house. But you might want 12. Just saying. If you do get a big thing of toilet paper, share it with your friends. Call your friends who can't go out at all. No, you don't need all the toilet paper. You need a little toilet paper. But you might want to make sure you got enough Diet Coke. And make sure you have enough goldfish. The little things that make stuff pleasant so that if you can't run out to the store for a little while, that, you're good. So, don't go crazy. A couple of cans of soup in the cupboard maybe wouldn't hurt. That's what I'm saying. We still have more of this book. Don't panic, because people say, aren't we coming down there? Aren't we coming down there? So we have 1, oh my, that's a long one there. 2, how many more of these? 24. I'm literally going to count them. Is it 2 chapters? No, there's like 3 more chapters. There's a third one. 3. That is a third chapter. There's 3 more chapters. And then there's another book. How many books are there? There's so many books. I feel like check. So this is Little Town of Prairie. Then is these Happy Golden Years, and Dean Butler has said, I gotta read some Happy Golden Years. So Dean Butler will probably pop in for Happy Golden Years, and maybe a couple cast members we haven't had in. So we have 3 more chapters of this, and then we have all of these Happy Golden Years, and then there's that additional book, the first 4 years, which some people don't count as part of it, but I think it's part of it. So we'll read that. And if I'm still doing it, was it COVID spiked because it wants you to keep reading to us? No, maybe. But there's first 4 years, and then there's like a bunch of Rose Wilder books. There's the Marvelous Historian. Do you know about William Anderson? Bill Anderson? William Anderson. He's on Facebook. Cool guy. He's a teacher and a historian, and he started writing. He wrote some stuff about Laura. He also has written a lot about the family, the Van Trapps and Sound of Music. He's written a bunch of it. But he wrote some stuff about Laura, and it was such a hit. He's like, people are like, you're the Laura guy. And he's like, I just wrote that. But he's really good. And Bill Anderson wrote some stuff about Laura. So Rose wrote a bunch of stuff after these books. So we could get into those. And then, and it's controversial, I know. Rose died and she left everything to this dude, Roger McBride. And a lot of people are like, but Roger McBride, he wrote a bunch of books. Maybe they're not as good as these. But so there is a stack of material. And then the new stuff that's come out, like Prairie Girl and Prairie Fires, about the real Laura's life. So, we could do this forever. We just keep going and going. People, yes, they know. People go, I love Bill Anderson. He's so nice. I love Bill Anderson. I've hung out with him on Prairie reunion events and stuff, and he's really cool. So yeah, don't worry. We got 3 more chapters of this. We got an entire 2 books before we're even done with the basic series. So don't panic. I will find things to read to you. And I have more bonnets in stock. I'm going to put them up in the store that we have bonnets in stock. And of course, we also have the other kind, the Missouri bonnet, which is in the sort of lovely pale pastels with little flowers. So goody. I will see you tomorrow. I don't know. I think I'll just do 1 chapter because I got to get ready. I got the show. Maybe I'll go earlier. I don't know, because I'll be getting ready for the show. But we'll do something. And it'll be lovely. So take care and wash your hands and wear little masks and prepare. Keep an eye on those numbers because, like I said, you may suddenly find out tomorrow. Yeah, we had to close a bunch of stuff. But we'll manage. We will somehow. All's well that ends well, says Paul. And whatever you do, try to be like not a racist person, and don't be mean to people because they're like a different color from another country. Oh, for heaven's sake! So yes, go watch The Wisdom of Solomon. There you go. See you tomorrow.